Ugh, Mystic, you idiot. This title is super misleading. How can no one use any of the Pokemon on this list when I've used every single Pokemon in the entire series at least once just to try them all out? Someone out there is very possibly saying that as they're yelling at their computer screen and furiously typing into the comment section. To which, the answer to that question, I doubt you still use them, because they're not particularly the best. Maybe they don't catch your eye the same way others do, or maybe the playstyle of the Pokemon just doesn't work with you. Oh, and those 3 things I listed happen to be the criteria for this list. See what I did there? Pretty clever, right? Actually, don't answer that. Let's just get to number 10 before my self-confidence plummets. However, to prevent it from plummeting, you can always like the video, subscribe to the channel, and also go check out my Heartgold Randomizer Hardcore Nuzlocke over on Miss Magius. Links in the description. But alright, now we can start the list. Alright, this number 10 is like a blanket slide, meant to cover a wide array of the very same archetype of Pokemon that I will call Pokédex filler. Now, what is Pokédex filler? They're Pokemon that are, in terms of stats, and sometimes in terms of designs, absolute do-nothing Pokemon that are literally just there. Stat-wise, they're so bad that using them in even the most casual playthroughs is the worst idea ever. This is the slot for the Love Discs, Gladion, Unknown, Sunflora, and the likes. And yeah, I know, Unknown is the building blocks of the universe. But you aren't using it as much as you're trying to solve the Ruins of Alph when you get in with these guys. This slot is for the slow, stat unplayable garbage that no matter how much any of us like them, we'd never want to put them on our parties because they would contribute 0 to it. Which makes me sad, because I really like Sunflora, and I wish that I could use it. And I totally have once or twice, haha. No one uses does not apply to the creator. Admittedly, I never quite understood this weird issue where Pokemon evolve way too late. Yeah, there's literal Unova syndrome where it feels like half the Pokemon you want to use will all evolve by the time you're ready to retire. But I would like to take a look at a Pokemon that is the true first example of Unova syndrome in my eyes. Now, maybe my Kanto knowledge ain't what it used to be, maybe I just forgot, but why does Ponyta take so long to evolve? Level 40 is absurd. Yeah, it takes Slowpoke until level 37, and it takes Dragonair until level 55, but I can forgive those, because Slowbro is actually really good, and Dragonite, while not as insane as it would be, is a sign of true skill as a trainer due to the fact that you had to spend that long taking care of it. There's no real justification for Ponyta taking this too long to evolve if the intention was to actually use it on your team. It's not particularly strong, so it's dead weight, and by the time it evolves, you've had the opportunity to catch Magmar or use the Firestone to access Ninetales and Arcanine. What do you mean I'm forgetting someone? Wonder who that could be. Huh. And when you do get Rapidash, its stats are mediocre at best, even for the time, with the only thing that stands out is its speed stat, because back then, that was pretty good. It's just a shame that nothing is or was good about it, other than its speed. What about Galarian Rapidash? What about Galar Rapidash? You cannot convince me that people actually use Oinkologne. I'm pretty sure I've talked about it in recent times as a rather forgotten Pokemon, and I am holding true to that statement. I don't think I've ever actually seen an Oinkologne at any point on any team outside of a playthrough, where you evolve Lechonk, saw this strange downgrade, and then promptly boxed it. Not only does it have the incredible basic typing of pure normal, which you have plenty of options for, but outside of HP, it doesn't particularly excel at anything. Yeah, I guess the base 90 special defense and thick fat give the female one room to be considered a tank on the special side, but like, why? Why run this? It has no reliable recovery, no truly outstanding stats, and honestly, given that it's the normal type based off of farmland stock, this is honestly a poor man's Miltank. Miltank at least has plenty of redeeming qualities, while the only redeeming quality behind Cologne is that it smells good. I'm really hungry, and it's right there. It's time for lunch. Lycanroc Midnight just kind of has what we like to call middle child syndrome, as it's stuck right in the middle of Lycanroc Dawn and Lycanroc Dusk, since Dawn was likely the first one any of us saw, and Dusk is the cool one that's actually pretty solid thanks to its excellent attack and speed, and then, of course, Tough Claws. Midnight form sadly has none of these qualities, because for some reason, they decided to shave off 30 of the speed, put it to 10 in each defense, and then give it no good abilities. Dawn form at least has Sand Rush to pretend to be Excadrill when it's not around, even if that hasn't worked out very well. However, at least it has like actual speed. They really made Midnight Lycanroc slightly more bulky with no real way to complement it. And it's a pure rock typing. At least they fixed pure rock a little after this by giving Gigalith, Sandstream, and making Garganacl a Pokemon, but alas, even in Gen 9, Lycanroc Midnight is still horrendously god-awful. Why use it in your playthrough when you could literally just use Dawn and Dusk? I have an answer for that. It's because you like the design more. That's really it. I've covered Eldegoss on this channel before. Well, I've covered a lot of Pokemon on this channel before, but Eldegoss has the pleasure of being a somewhat recent memory. I've considered it to be a little underrated, if you will, and I will stick by that. But that doesn't mean I don't understand why no one uses it. Let's take a look back at Generation 8, shall we? We see that Gossifleur, the pre-evolution of Eldegoss, is a pure grass type. How interesting, I am sure. Now, let's look at a Pokemon that is pure grass, and is obtainable before you ever learn that Gossifleur is a thing. Must I say more? Fine. How many buffs has Rillaboom gotten? Grassy Surge and Grassy Glide? How many buffs has Eldegoss gotten? And there we go. I rest my case. Also, Eldegoss is slow and doesn't get very many good level up moves, which makes it harder to use in a playthrough than other grass options. Alright, this is the last underrated grass type of the video. It just kind of happened that the list wound up this way, and I don't make the rules. But yeah, Shiinotic kind of has a bit of an issue where I don't think I've ever seen anybody actually use it. Although, I can understand why. Generation 7 has some rather brutal boss fights in the form of Totem Pokemon, and Shiinotic, while kind of tanky, has the issue of being rather slow. So slow, in fact, that it gives the Totem Pokemon time to call for help in certain situations. Don't get me wrong, there is always potential to put the totem to sleep with Sleep Powder, reduce the totem's accuracy with Flash, and keep itself healthy with Moonlight, which are all moves that it gets really early on as a Morlo. However, this method has the caveat of being slow, boring, and incredibly tedious, which, given that Gen 7 can kinda go slow sometimes, as the last thing you want to do is go even slower. Shiinotic just doesn't have the button mashing capabilities of, let's say, Decidueye, Lurantis, and Executor. I mean, yeah, I guess you could use Gmax Alcremie, but last I checked, unless I'm missing something, trying to do that is typically more effort than it's worth when you could just opt not to use Alcremie altogether. What do I mean by this? Alcremie has the issue of being slow. However, unlike some of the others I've talked about, it's got a pretty meaty special attack stat to do real ass damage with. So why is it higher up on this list despite being arguably more useful in a playthrough? And hell, with access to moves like Recover, Calm Mind, and Stored Power, it's probably a better Pokemon overall. It's arguably the strongest Pokemon on this list thus far. And you'd be right. However, to first get to Alcremie, you have to get your hands on Milcery. And Milcery is kind of a wasted party slot while you're trying to go out and find the sweets to give the little guy so you can spin it around and evolve it. Which, yeah, you can get them at the battle cafes. Maybe it isn't too tedious trying to get your hands on this guy. But the real tedium comes from the fact that you have to go out and find TRs. Otherwise, you're stuck spamming Fairy Stab and Recover until you hopefully stumble upon the TMs for Giga Drain and Mystical Fire. And that sounds pretty annoying. Furfrou is a Pokemon that I think needs more love and attention. It's a very good dog. An excellent dog, even. Sure, the normal type may be considered a little bland, but it's not like it'll ever actually fall off during your playthrough of X and Y. After all, how could it be bad in a game that was designed to be completed by people who were born yesterday? X and Y as games are easier than trying to do Basic Edition, and yet, people don't slap Furfrou on their team, which I guess I kinda get. There are flashier options, sure, but while you could win with your fancy megas and your cool looking starters, I would like to win my playthrough with style and grace. I want to go give my Furfrou a nice haircut, and then I want to take it on a long walk through the Kalos region where we can trample the opposition with moves like Headbutt, Bite, Sucker Punch, Retaliate if someone else faints, or even just useful TMs such as Return for when our friendship maximizes, and even other moves like okay, never mind, just Return. Wild Charge is locked until the postgame, go figure. Now sure, using it competitively is hardly an option, unless you're that confident in some strange specially defensive Furfrou with Cotton Guard, Toxic, Protect, and some sort of attack type of set. But I think this mon is best fit for a fun playthrough. Now, which one's my favorite?
Debutante.
No questions asked. It really makes me feel like I'm trying to be fancier than I am. What's your favorite though? I'm curious. Alright, so typically I have some sort of segment as to why this Pokemon isn't used. But the reason why nobody uses Throw is insanely simple, and there's no point in me dragging this one out. No one uses Throw because Sock is right there. And even in the game where Sock is less common, you can still find it in the rustling grass outside of Pinwheel Forest. It's just rare. There isn't really much of a reason to use the much slower Throw, when Sock basically does exactly what you want to do better than Throw does. Outspeeds Lenora's Watchog, destroys that Watchog with a Karate Chop, swipes you that badge, and is probably pretty good for the rest of the playthrough thanks to its speed, power, and access to Sturdy in a pinch. There's a case to be made that Throw is better against Elesa due to the ability Guts, and its overall tankiness letting it eat hits from Zebstrika and defeating it. And that's cool, but that'll be the only moment where you don't want to use Sock. Yeah, this is just a moment in history where I completely understand why nobody uses it, and there is no point in trying to justify it. But I might anyway, because I want to be a positive influence. Granbull really does not have anything interesting going for it. In the Gens 2 to 5 days, as a normal type, it did nothing. And as a fairy type, I don't even remember where the heck you're supposed to get Snubbull in X and Y. And I don't think it's in any regional Pokedex since Pokemon X and Y's. The only game I know where to get Snubbull in off the top of my head is in Gold, Silver, and Crystal. But that's just because I absolutely love Gen 2. And Heartgold and Soul Silver. Other than that though, it's so easy to pass by, to gloss over, and to basically act like it doesn't exist. Because it almost kind of doesn't. It's always living in the shadow of something else, with the flashy new option taking your attention away from it. It also doesn't help that Snubbull is really ugly, and not particularly the coolest looking dog. It doesn't help that you can also find Growlithe pretty early in Johto and just use that instead. What does Gramble do? Well, it's slow, it's frail, and it hits hard with coverage moves like the Elemental Fangs, which you need heart skills for, and then just normal stab, bite, and eventually crunch. It really hurts me to say this, but nobody uses it, because there isn't much of a reason 99.9% of the time to do so. Well, I'm kinda hurt. That was somber. I'm just gonna go think about something else. Something a bit more positive. I guess I'll just go watch some videos and just try to take my mind off of how unfortunate Gramble is. Anyways though, what is a Pokemon that you guys think should have been on this list? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below.